when India was a colony of British Raj. So after India's independence, the time becomes post-colonial. After the colony period was over, after that time we call post-colonial time. So in the story, as it was first published in 1947, so there is a post-colonial context in the story, and it reflects a society negotiating tradition and modernity. Then there is a rise of Indian English fiction, because writers like R.K. Narayan helped establish Indian English literature as a serious artistic tradition with global recognition. There is a focus on middle class life, because Narayan's narrative centered on ordinary people, capturing society, social customs, beliefs and economic struggle of small town India. And this story has a blend of realism and irony, because it combines that realistic description with subtle irony to critique superstition and human gullibility. So as we move on, this story was published in 1947 and reflects a society at the crossroads of tradition and modernity during the year of Indian independence. We have already discussed that. And let's have a short overview of the story, because a short story, it is a short story blending realism, suspense and irony within a simple yet psychologically complex narrative. This revolves around a confrontation between a fake astrologer and a stranger who unknowingly seeks revenge on him. And the narrative follows a single evening's events, gradually building tension towards a dramatic and ironic climax. Through one day in the astrologer's life, the story explores guilt, destiny, deception and unexpected redemption. So this is the story of an astrologer's day, and as we have seen that the story revolves around a man who pretends to be an astrologer. He sits under a tamarind tree in Town Hall Park and predicts people's future, but in reality he knows nothing about astrology. One evening a stranger approaches him. That stranger turns out to be someone from the astrologer's past, someone he once tried to kill. The story unfolds in a single evening and ends with a surprising twist. The power of this story lies in its simplicity. At first glance, it appears to describe an ordinary working day in the life of a roadside astrologer. However, as the narrative unfolds, we realize that this single evening becomes life alerting for the protagonist. Narayan carefully constructs the plot so that suspense grows gradually. Now, every dialogue between the two characters, that is the astrologer and the guest of the astrologer, the customer of the astrologer, increases the emotional pressure, leading to a startling revelation. What makes the story memorable is not just the twist at the end, but the deeper human emotions involved. It addresses themes of guilt, survival, fate and moral transformation, all within a short span of time. This tight narrative structure makes it an excellent example of effective short story writing. So moving on to the setting of the story, and the story sets in the Town Hall Park and atmosphere. So this is the story sets in a bustling market environment in absence of municipal lighting, and the astrologer operates under a tamarind tree in Town Hall Park, and it is surrounded by vendors, noise and constant public movement. The dim flares, shop lights and shadows create a mysterious and confusing atmosphere that supports deception. So there is a symbolism of darkness, as the semi-darkness represents ignorance and superstition, allowing the astrologer's false authority to flourish. Then there is a contrast of light and truth. Moments of light reveal truth and tension, especially during the confrontation with Guru Nayak. So this is the setting of Town Hall Park and the atmosphere that is there in the story. So the physical setting of the story is extremely important because it mirrors the psychological atmosphere of the narrative. Town Hall Park is not described as a peaceful place. Rather, it is crowded, noisy and commercially active. Vendors shout, lights flicker, and people constantly move around. The chaotic environment creates a dramatic backdrop for the astrologer's business. Now, the absence of proper municipal lighting is significant. Instead of clear illumination, the space is filled with half lights, shadows, and smoke from flares. This partial darkness symbolizes the ignorance of the people who blindly trust the astrologer. The unclear visibility reflects the unclear understanding of truth. Now, when the stranger confronts the astrologer, brief flashes of light reveal his face and scar, intensifying the suspense. Thus, the setting is not merely decorative, it plays an active role in reinforcing the themes of illusion, deception, and eventual revelation. We will moving on to the appearance and professional setup of the astrologer, his characteristics along with his customers' characteristics. But before that, let's have a short break. So, moving on, the astrologer and the astrologer's appearance and professional setup. So, he wears a saffron turban, sacred ash and vermilion marks to create an impression of spiritual authority. Cowrie shells, mystic charts, a notebook, and Palmyra's writings serve as props to enhance credibility. He chooses a crowded marketplace under a tamarind tree to maximize visibility and customer flow. Though ignorant of astrology, he relies on observation, confidence, and dramatic presentation to attract clients. So, this is the appearance and professional setup for the astrologer. The astrologer's success does not come from genuine knowledge of the stars, but from his carefully constructed appearance. His saffron turban, sacred ash on the forehead, and intense gaze gave him an aura of spiritual wisdom. These external features create immediate trust among his clients. In addition to his clothing, his tools play a psychological role. The cowrie shells, mystic charts, and palm leaf manuscripts create a visual performance that convinces people of his authenticity. These objects act as symbols of ancient tradition and sacred knowledge. More importantly, he understands the value of location. By positioning himself in a busy marketplace, he ensures a steady stream of customers. Then, his profession becomes a blend of theatre and psychology rather than true astrology. This highlights Narayan's subtle critique of blind faith and superficial appearances. Now, moving on to the psychological technique and business strategy that are embedded in this story. So, there is a observation before prediction like of technique in the story. For example, the astrologer allows clients to speak first for several minutes, gathering personal details to shape his response. Then there is a universal human problems, like the astrologer focuses on common issues like marriage, money, and family conflicts that apply to almost everyone. And there is a vague yet convincing statements like his predictions are general enough to fit any situation, yet specific enough to appear insightful. And there is a confidence as authority for the side of this astrologer, because his calm tone and dramatic pauses create psychological dominance and making clients believe in his power. So, this is the psychological technique and business strategy of the astrologer in this story. The astrologer's real talent lies not in astrology but in psychology. He understands that most people carry similar worries about relationships, finance, and social status. By focusing on these universal concerns, he ensures that his statements resonate with his audience. A key part of his strategy is silence. He allows the client to speak first, collecting valuable information. Within minutes, he can analyze their emotional state, social background, and immediate concerns. This technique allows him to appear remarkably accurate without possessing supernatural knowledge. His confidence completes the illusion. By speaking slowly and maintaining eye contact and using dramatic pauses, he creates a sense of authority. This demonstrates Narayan's insight into how easily human beings can be influenced when they seek comfort or reassurance. Moving on, beginning of conflict in the story as the unexpected customer enters on the scene. So after most vendors leave, a mysterious stranger approaches the astrologer and challenges his abilities. And this challenge is a bold challenge. The stranger questions his authenticity, the astrologer's authenticity, and proposes a financial wager to test his prediction. And it shifts in atmosphere. The mood changes from casual business to intense psychological confrontation. And there we came to know about the astrologer's fear. On seeing the stranger's face in the matchlight, the astrologer feels startled and visibly shaken. So, when with the entry of the stranger, that marks a dramatic turning point in the narrative. Until this moment, the astrologer has been comfortably managing ordinary customers. However, his particular man does not behave like the others. He does not seek comfort. Instead, he demands proof. The financial wager heightens the stakes. The stranger insists that if the astrologer is wrong, he must repay the money with interest. Now, this creates immediate tension because the astrologer is no longer in control of the conversation. For the first time, his usual tricks may not be enough. The most crucial moment occurs when a brief flash of matchlight reveals the stranger's face. The astrologer recognizes him instantly and becomes frightened. This recognition introduces the central suspense of the story, as readers begin to sense that the two men share a hidden past. Now comes the challenge and rising suspense in the story. So the stranger is the high-stake wager. The stranger demands accurate answers and threatens financial penalty if the astrologer fails. Revelation of the scar. The stranger reveals a scar on his chest and confirming a violent attack from his past. And there is astrologer's internal panic. Recognizing the man as his former victim, the astrologer struggles to hide his fear. And there comes the suspenseful dialogue. Short, intense exchanges between the two characters heighten dramatic tension. How? The confrontation now intensifies into a psychological battle. The stranger is not merely testing the astrologer's skill, he is searching for the man who once tried to kill him. The financial wager symbolizes the seriousness of the encounter and raises the emotional stakes. When the stranger exposes the scar on his chest, the atmosphere becomes charged with danger. Now, the astrologer realizes that the man standing before him is the very person he believed to be dead. This recognition fills him with panic. Yet, he must maintain composure to protect himself. Narayan built suspense through brief, sharp dialogue. Each answer from the astrologer brings him closer to exposure, yet also closer to safety. The tension between fear and survival drives the narrative forward toward its dramatic climax. Now, there is a shocking revelation that comes by. So, there is a strategic prediction. The astrologer boldly declares that the stranger's attacker died months ago in a distant town. And the emotional relief for Guru Nayak. Believing his enemy is dead, the stranger, whose name is Guru Nayak, feels satisfied and abandons his search for revenge. And there comes the turning point in the story. This statement prevents recognition and saves the astrologer from exposure and possible violence. Then there comes the irony at its peak. as the astrologer unknowingly predicts his own supposed death to secure his safety. So, this is the shocking revelation. Shocking revelation. Now, the climax of the story demonstrates the astrologer's remarkable presence of mind. Realizing the danger he faces, he makes a calculated decision to announce that the man who attacked Guru Nanak is already dead. This declaration is not based on astrology but on self-preservation. For Guru Nanak, the news brings emotional closure. He had travelled in search of revenge, but now he believes fate has already punished his enemy. His desire for vengeance dissolves and he prepares to return home. This reaction highlights the powerful influence of belief over action. The situation is deeply ironic. In order to survive, the astrologer predicts his own death. This twist not only resolves the immediate conflict but also showcases Narayan's mystery of irony and his mastery and in suspense. The lie becomes the instrument of truth, freeing the astrologer from years of fear. Now, as the relief, confession and redemption comes, so there is a return home at midnight. After the intense encounter, the astrologer returns home late, carrying unexpected earnings and emotional exhaustion at the same time. Then, confession to his wife, he reveals that he once tried to kill a man in his youth and had lived with guilt ever since, and he confessed all these things to his wife. Then the burden of guilt removed. Learning that the man is alive frees him from years of fear and psychological suffering. Then comes the quiet closure. The story ends calmly, contrasting the earlier tension and symbolizing inner peace. So, as the conclusion of the story shifts from dramatic confrontation to quiet introspection, when the astrologer reaches home, the atmosphere becomes domestic and calm. His wife is concerned about money, unaware of the emotional storm he has just experienced. In a moment of honesty, he confesses his past crime. As a reckless young man, he had attempted to kill someone during a drunken quarrel. Now, believing that the man had died, he fled his village and built a new life under a false identity. This revelation explains the hidden anxiety and has shaped his present existence. The greatest transformation occurs internally. The astrologer realizes that the man is alive and therefore he is not a murderer. The heavy burden of guilt that haunted him for years is finally lifted. Narayan ends the story on a peaceful note, suggesting that redemption and emotional relief are possible even after grave mistakes. So, there are now the time for character sketch in the story. So, first we will discuss about the character sketch of the astrologer. So, the astrologer is an impressive yet deceptive one. He presents himself as a wise and spiritual figure, though he possesses no real knowledge of astrology, and he is shrewd and observant mostly. His sharp observation skills and understanding of human psychology enables him to manipulate clients effectively. We will discuss on the characters of the astrologer more, but before that, let's have a short break. Welcome back, learners. So we were discussing the character sketch of the astrologer. So as we were discussing that the astrologer has a very impressive yet deceptive character, deceptive type of persona in this story. The astrologer presents himself as a wise and spiritual figure, though he possesses no real knowledge of astrology. But he was a very good, shrewd and observant. His sharp observation skills and understanding of human psychology enable him to manipulate clients effectively. Then he was haunted by the past. He carries deep guilt for a violent act committed in his youth, and this shapes his present identity. And anyhow, he is capable of change. By the end of the story, he experiences emotional relief and personal redemption. So this is the character of the astrologer. This is his character sketch. So the astrologer is not a simple villain or hero. He is a deeply layered character. On the surface, he appears confident and spiritually authoritative. However, this identity is carefully constructed to conceal his lack of genuine knowledge and his troubled past. His intelligence lies in observation rather than astrology. He reads faces, gestures and tones of voice, allowing him to give convincing advice. Now, as the story goes on, this demonstrates his practical wisdom and adaptability in a challenging economic environment. Yet beneath his clever exterior lies fear and guilt. His past attempt at murder forced him to abandon his village and reinvent himself. The encounter with Guru Nanak becomes a moment of emotional cleansing. By the end, he is not merely a trickster, but a man freed from long-standing psychological torment. Now move on to the character sketch of the second important character, that is the Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak was the guest, the customer for the astrologer. So Guru Nanak was determined and vengeful. He is driven by a strong desire to find and punish the man who once attempted to kill him. He is emotionally burdened. Years of searching for revenge reveal his inability to let go of past trauma. He is direct and fearless. Unlike other clients, he boldly challenges the astrologer and questions his authenticity. He is the agent of resolution. Unknowingly, his encounter allows the astrologer to confront and overcome his guilt. So this is the character sketch for the character Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak is not merely a supporting character. He is the driving force behind the story's central conflict. His determination to seek revenge shapes his personality and actions. Unlike the astrologer's usual customers, he is assertive, suspicious, and demanding. His life appears to have been defined by a single traumatic event. The scar on his chest symbolizes not only physical injury but also emotional resentment. Now, for years, he has traveled in search of the man responsible for his suffering. This shows how revenge can dominate a person's life. Ironically, his search ends not with violence but with acceptance. Believing that his attacker is dead, he abandons his mission. In doing so, he unknowingly liberates the astrologer from guilt. Thus, Guru Nanak functions as both a threat and a source of resolution within the narrative. Now comes the portion, that is the major themes that are very important to discuss while we read a story. So one of some major themes that are there in the story are fate versus will, guilt and redemption, superstition and blind faith, and also appearance versus reality. Though destiny appears powerful, the astrologer's quick thinking shows how human choice can alter outcomes. Then guilt and redemption, like the protagonist's lost standing guilt is resolved through an unexpected encounter that offers emotional release. Then the story critiques society's tendency to trust appearance and seek comfort in false predictions, and their faith on superstition and blindness. blindly faith on superstition. Then comes the appearance versus reality, the most important theme, major themes in the story. So the astrologer's external identity contrasts sharply with his hidden past and inner fear. Now, at the heart of the story lies the tension between fate and free will. Guru Nanak believes in destiny and revenge, while the astrologer survives through intelligent choice. R.K. Narayan subtly suggests that although destiny influences life, individual decisions ultimately shape outcomes. Another powerful theme is guilt and redemption. The astrologer's past mistake defines his present life, forcing him to live under a false identity. Now, however, the encounter with Guru Nanak provides the astrologer with unexpected liberation. Redemption comes not through punishment, but through knowledge and acceptance. The story also critiques superstition. People also approach the astrologer seeking reassurance, demonstrating their vulnerability and blind faith. Finally, the contrast between appearance and reality runs throughout the narrative. The astrologer appears wise and spiritual, yet he is merely an ordinary man burdened by fear. These interconnected themes give the story its depth and lasting impact. Now move on to the literary devices that are there in the story. So first of all, there was situational irony. The astrologer predicts his own death to save himself and creating a powerful and unexpected twist. Then comes the sustained suspense. Narayan builds tension through gradual revelation, sharp dialogue and delayed disclosure of the past. Then comes the symbolism of light and darkness. Darkness represents ignorance and deception, while sudden flashes of light reveal truth. Realistic dialogue, like natural conversation, enhances authenticity and intensifies the psychological conflict in the story. So, the literary devices, the Narayan's mastery of literary technique is clearly visible in this story. So, the most striking device is situational irony. The astrologer who pretends to predict others' futures ends up predicting his own supposed death. This unexpected twist not only resolves the conflict but also deepens the story's meaning. Suspense is carefully sustained throughout the narrative. Instead of revealing the past immediately, Narayan allows tension to build through conversation and atmosphere. The reader gradually senses that something significant connects the two men. Symbolism also plays a crucial role. The recurring contrast between light and darkness reflects the movement from ignorance to truth. Darkness protects deception, while brief flashes of light expose the reality. Through these devices, Narayan transforms a simple plot into a psychologically rich narrative. Now comes to the point of grammar, and there is the grammar like perfect continuous tense. So there are two types of perfect continuous tense. One is past perfect continuous tense and the other one is present perfect continuous tense. Past perfect continuous tense is used for actions that began in the past and continue into the present, formed with his with has or have been and then verb plus ing. For example, he has been living with guilt for years. This reflects ongoing emotional burden. So, has been living. So, there is the perfect tense because of has been, and then there is a continuous tense for this living. So, present perfect continuous tense, he has been living. So, this is a combination of present perfect tense and present continuous tense. So, both together they form the present perfect continuous tense. Similarly, there is past perfect continuous tense. This is used for actions that continued up to a specific point in the past and formed with had been plus verb and ing. So, for example, he had been searching for his attacker. It shows duration before the final encounter. And look into the format of this sentence. He had been searching. Had been. This is past perfect tense, and searching. This is continuous tense. So, this is a combination of past perfect tense and past continuous tense. Together they form the past perfect continuous tense. he had been searching for his attacker. Alright, so now moving on to the vocabulary portion. So there is phrasal verbs in this lesson in the vocabulary part. So phrasal verbs are made of a main verb followed by one or two particles like a preposition or adverb. So the meaning of the phrasal verb is often different from the meaning of the words alone. For example, take means to hold, off means away from a place. But when we form the phrasal verb take off, it means remove something or leave quickly. Remove something like take off your shoes, remove your shoes, or leave quietly, that means the plane will take off soon. So the plane will leave quickly. So this is how phrasal verb forms, and this is how the meaning of the words changed when we combine them and form up phrasal verbs. So that's all about the lesson An Astrologer's Day, which is there as the lesson number 3 in our senior secondary English course. So we have discussed the story, the theme, the character sketches of the story, and also the grammar and vocabulary part of the story. We will again meet with another lesson in our next class. Till then, thank you.